And now we are into chapter 6. Get your calculators ready because eventually we're going to use those during this section. To start out with, if b to the n is a, then b is the nth root of a. In the expression, we say nth root of a. N is what we call the index of the radical. So sometimes when you have a root here, this number is called the index. A to the m over n, I can write that a couple different ways. This is the important one, okay? Notice that the bottom number of the rational exponent, the fraction in the exponent, the bottom number is always the index of the radical. To do some examples, if I were to write this in rational exponent notation, I would keep the 5 as the base. This number would be the top of the fraction, and then the index is the bottom number of the fraction. So it would be 5 to the 3/4. Moving over to the next one, we keep the 12 as the base, and then it'll be 10 over 6. And then we will reduce that, so it'll be 12 to the 5/3. Okay? Now moving down and doing the opposite, I'm going to put 7 underneath the radical, and then this number is always the index, the bottom number of the fraction, so it's going to be the cubed root of 7 to the first. And because it's to the first, I don't need to put that out here, because anytime we have to the first, you usually don't write that down. Negative 14 goes underneath the radical, and this is going to be the 7th root, so there's going to be a little 7 on the radical, and then it's to the third. So what I do is I put parentheses around the whole thing and take it to the third. Now, let's evaluate the expression without a calculator. Since this right here is square root, okay, I know how to do the square root of 81. By the way, whenever you do square root, you do not need to write a 2 because square root is already assumed to be an index of 2. So it's going to be the square root of 81, and then we still have that to the third. So I'm going to put to the third out here. Now we just do the order of operations basically. Inside the parentheses, the square root of 81 is 9. And then this is going to be 9 to the third. Now you may need to use your calculator for this part, and that's fine. 9 to the third, 9 times 9 is 81. 81 times 9 is going to be 729. Okay? 16 to the 3/4. This is what the index of the radical is. So this is going to be the 4th root of 16. 16 is the base. And then we're going to take that to the third. 4th root of 16, you're thinking what number times itself 4 times would get you 16? That's going to be 2, because 2 to the 4th is 16. So the 4th root of 16 is 2. We still need to take that to the third, and 2 to the third is 8. So 8 would be the final answer. Now, whenever you have a negative exponent, first I'm going to rewrite this. That would be 1 over 4 to the positive 5/2. That's properties of exponents that we've already covered. Then we change that to 1 over. This is still going to be the index, so it's going to be the square root of 4. And again, square root, you don't need to write the 2. And it's going to be the square root of 4 to the 5th. Okay, so we've got 1 over. The square root of 4 is 2. And then we still have to the 5th. So we end up with 1 over 2 to the 5th is 32. So that would be the final answer, 1 over 32. Coming out soon, Iron Man 3. Evaluate the expression using a calculator. Have your calculator handy, and I'm going to take you through this. When you type 136 to the 5/3 into your calculator, you're going to type in 136 on your clear screen, and then you use the caret button. Okay, so look for the caret button, and then in parentheses, you're going to do 5 divided by 3. okay? So it'll look like 136 caret, and then in parentheses, 5 over 3. And then when you hit enter, you should get 3,596.65. Notice that we're rounding 2 decimal places. Moving over to the next one, since the negative 28 is already in parentheses, and because it's negative, when you type it in, make sure that you use parentheses around negative 28. That's actually very important. Negative 28 in parentheses. And then we do caret again on your calculator. And then again, parentheses, 7, and then you'll use the division sign. So it'll be divided by 5. So that's what you're, that's what you should type into the calculator. When you type that in, you should get negative 106.17. Okay, so make sure you're getting that answer. When I type in 124 caret, and then in parentheses, now make sure you use the negative, not the minus, so it'll be negative 3, and then you'll do divided by 4. When you type that into the calculator, when you round 2 decimal places, it should be 0.03. And then the last one, now this one's a little bit different. When you type fifth root in, now when you go to, if you type math on your calculator, there is a square root option and there is a cubed root option. But anything above cubed root, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take that index number and you're going to type in 5 on your regular screen. And then you're going to hit the math key. Okay, you hit the math key. And then you'll see something that looks like the xth root. And that should be number 5 once you hit math. Okay, so the xth root will be number 5, so you can go ahead and hit 5 or scroll down to the 5 and hit enter. Okay, so then you're going to have fifth root on your calculator. By the way, I should have said this. You should have parentheses at the beginning of this as well. And the calculator may do that for you. I don't remember for sure. But it'll be parentheses, and then you'll go 5 math. So it'll look like 5 xth root, and then you're going to type in 43, finish the parentheses, and then it'll be caret, and again, make sure in parentheses you type in negative 3. Because it's a negative, you are going to want parentheses around it. And then when you hit enter, you should end up with 0.10 when you round 2 decimal places. Another way to type this in, you could change this to an exponent. You could change this to 43 to the negative 3/5. So then when you type this into the calculator, you could also put 43 caret and then in parentheses negative 3/5. So you could type it in that way as well, and you should still get the same answer of 0.10. Solve the equation and round your answer to 2 decimal places when appropriate. Okay, so just like we would normally solve for x, the first thing I would do is subtract 2 from both sides. So I've got 3x to the 4th. Those cancel out, equals 3. Now we would divide both sides by 3. So I end up with x to the 4th equals 1. Now the next step would be to take the 4th root. Anytime you have something to the 4th, I would take the 4th root of both sides. And just like we did square roots, you're going to need a plus or minus for this answer. Anytime you do an even root on both sides, your answer should come out to be plus or minus, okay? And that only works for even roots. So if you do cubed root, 5th root, 7th root, 9th root, you're just going to have whatever answer it comes out to be. But if it's 4th root, 6th root, 8th root, you will always have an answer of plus or minus. And then the 4th root of 1 is 1, because 1 to the 4th is 1. So that would be our answer, plus or minus 1. The next one, I want to get what is to the third all by itself. So the first step here would be to subtract 12 from both sides. Those are going to cancel. We drop down the negative, and then the 3x plus 2 cubed equals, and that's going to equal 8. Okay, now we need to get rid of that negative, so I'm going to divide both sides by -1. So that ends up to be, this is a cubed, that ends up to be 3x plus 2 cubed equals -8. Now I need to take the cubed root of both sides. Once you get something cubed all by itself, you can go ahead and take the cubed root of both sides. So now I'm going to continue to work. I've got 3x plus 2, okay? The cubed root and the cubed cancel each other out, so I'm just left with the 3x plus 2 equals, now again, remember this is an odd root, so it's going to be whatever answer I have over here. And the cubed root of -8 is -2, because -2 times -2 times -2 will get me back to the -8. Now to solve for x, I subtract 2 from both sides. So I've got 3x equals -4. Divide both sides by 3. X equals -4/3. And that is our answer for that problem. And your assignment is page 417, and those are the problems to work on. And that concludes section 6.1.